All right, it's time to get to the presidential debate, which will happen on Thursday. We'll have live coverage here on Breaking Points. And ahead of that debate, there's been a lot of eyes on the network, on CNN, who will be hosting this exclusively. Two of their anchors, CNN's Jake Tapper and Dana Bash. So ahead of that debate, CNN itself has been hyping this up. This is one of the biggest things that's ever happened in the history of the network. They're selling all this premium advertising. And so ahead of that, they have on the Trump National Press Secretary, Caroline Leavitt, for an interview on the Early Show with Casey Hunt. And lo and behold, a showdown happens in which the Trump campaign press secretary, doing what basically all Trump campaign press secretaries have always done, which is attack the mainstream media and going after CNN as a biased network because it is the one that is hosting that, brings that up in the course of that interview. This invites a nuclear scale meltdown on behalf of the CNN host Casey Hunt, who says, "You will not attack my colleagues," dumps the interview and cuts it off. We have the full clip here, so we're not editing anything out of context. Let's take a listen.
President Trump is knowingly going into a hostile environment on this very network, on CNN, with debate moderators who have made their opinions about him very well known over the past 8 years and their biased coverage of him. So President Trump is willing to bring his message to every corner of this country, to voters, to ensure that he wins this election.
So I'll just say my colleagues, Jake Tapper and Dana Bash, have acquitted themselves as professionals as they have covered campaigns and interviewed candidates from all sides of the aisle. I'll also say that if you talk to analysts of debates previous, that if you're attacking the moderators, you're usually losing. So I really want to focus in on what these two men are going to do and say. It does seem as though many Republicans have set the bar very low in terms of arguing that Joe Biden is basically senile. Now you have people like Doug Burgum coming out and saying, well, President Biden's very accomplished, trying to set expectations in a different place. What do you expect from Joe Biden?
Well, first of all, it would take someone 5 minutes to Google Jake Tapper, Donald Trump, to see that Jake Tapper has consistently,
stop this interview if you're going to keep
President
attacking
Trump
my colleagues.
to Adolf Hitler.
Ma'am, I'm going to stop this interview if you continue to attack my colleagues. I would like to talk about Joe Biden and Donald Trump, who you work for.
Yes.
If you are here to speak on his behalf, I am willing to have this conversation.
I am stating facts that your colleagues have stated in the past.
Okay.
Now,
I'm sorry, guys. We're going to come back out to the panel. Caroline, thank you very much for your time. You are welcome to come back at any point. She is welcome to come back and speak about Donald Trump, and Donald Trump will have equal time to Joe Biden when they both join us now at later this week in Atlanta for this debate. Our thanks to Caroline.
All right, so there it is, the full thing. I mean, look. It's par for the course. If it's one thing, if it's totally out of control, whatever. But Krystal, to me, you people signed up to host the debate. Then you invite the campaign press secretary on. Yeah, the lady's gonna attack the moderators. And by the way, they should attack the moderators, not just for that, but I think you and I will be dissecting quite a bit of the bias in the questions immediately afterwards. Shall we?
That Caroline and I will agree on the nature of the bias.
We may not agree on the nature of the bias, but I think we can all agree there's some bias that is happening here. And so, to me, this is just such a ridiculous, posturing of we are the ones, we are allowed to set the terms. You're not allowed to criticize our moderators. You can't come on here and we're just gonna dump it out immediately from this interview, from this position as if they're like godly kings who are above the fray. And that attitude just pisses me off so much that somehow I am now on the side of Miss Caroline over at the Trump press secretary.
The self-righteousness meter is going
come on.
On the charts. Okay, relax here.
Just chill.
And so we watched the clip that was going viral on Twitter together yesterday. I was like, I want to watch the whole interview before I judge, because it's possible they were going on for 5 minutes and Caroline kept going in on Jake or whatever, and Casey got to a point, okay, well, we're done with this. But it wasn't like that.
Yeah.
What we showed you was basically the entirety of the exchange that they had. There was a little bit more before that, but that's it. So, I mean, I don't know. I find the whole thing silly. Also, from the Trump campaign perspective, this isn't the Presidential Debate Commission anymore, so it's not like they're being forced into, being on a network or having rules that they didn't. You agreed to you and Joe Biden crafted these rules and accepted them. So it does ring a little hollow, the complaints. Of course they're gonna do it, it's par for the course. They're also trying to set the expectations low. They're trying to say listen, if Trump doesn't do well, it's because you guys are so biased. So that's part of the game that's being played here. But, if you're CNN and you're trying to persuade people that you're going to take a neutral, even-handed approach, I don't think that this probably really helps your cause.
No, absolutely. Yeah, thank you for that, right? And look, you are
Caroline
correct.
said wasn't actually all that crazy. She was just like, hey, Google Jake Tapper.
Right.
And also from the CNN perspective, like from Casey Hunt's perspective, she doesn't like Donald Trump. She would find it to be journalistic malpractice if Jake Tapper and her and Dana Bash and their other colleagues weren't critical of things that Trump had done. So to say he's been critical of things Trump has done, I mean, I don't think anyone could deny that. And I don't really think even that that's an insult even. So anyway,
the whole
whatever.
thing, it's just theater. It's like, what are
It
we
is
doing?
just
Why
theater.
are
That's
we
exactly
not
it.
accepting that we're playing this play? But that's why the elitism of it drives me crazy. They're like, no, we're gonna dump out of this because we're like God kings that are totally above criticism. It did invite some interesting reaction from Steve Bannon, who invited Caroline on his program War Room immediately afterwards. And he actually suggested Trump should pull out of the debate entirely. Let's take a listen.
But I want to get to the heart of it, is that how are we possibly having a debate with a network that's not, it's so biased that they show absolutely no respect to the president's national press secretary. When you were bringing up what we refer to as news items, it is a news story and a news item that Jake Tapper hates President Trump and has a history of it on social media. Same with Dana Bash. How can they not address that? And why are we in Atlanta, ma'am, with CNN, who controls the microphone on Thursday?
We're headed to Atlanta Thursday night, but CNN showed their hand with me on their network this morning. The fact that they cut off my microphone simply for repeating words that Jake Tapper himself has said, lies about President Trump. So Jake Tapper can go on the air and spew those lies all they want. But when I simply try to repeat them, which is relevant because he's a moderator at Thursday's debate, they cut me off and kicked me off.
Cassie Hunt owes you an apology. CNN owes you an apology today. And if we don't get that apology to Caroline Leavitt and to the Trump campaign and to MAGA today, President Trump should cancel this. It's not 3-on-1. They have the entire news apparatus because she had a producer. You know, Caroline, you've done so much TV. She had a producer in her ear saying, cut her off.
Steve Bannon is laying the ground there, possibly for pulling out of this. CNN issued a statement. Let's put it up there on the screen. Jake Tapper and Dana Bash are well-respected veteran journalists who have covered politics for more than 5 decades combined. My goodness.
Maybe that's part of the problem.
They have extensive experience moderating major political debates, including the Republican primary debate this cycle. There are no two people better equipped to co-moderate a substantial and a fact-based discussion. Interesting. Especially when both have been caught perpetrating several hoaxes. But hey, it's just me saying that, not anyone over at the Trump campaign. I will say I do think that what Bannon's comments reveal is there is some nervousness. The truth is that Trump was so desperate to debate Biden is that he, in my opinion, made a mistake. He said, I will debate you anywhere, anytime, any place, any network, any rules, which basically gave the rules over to the Biden campaign.
Yeah, and Biden kind of called his bluff.
Biden called his bluff intelligently, I think, and let's put this up there on the screen. So the actual debate rules, again, this is just my opinion. I'll lay it out, I'll give you my opinion. The final debate rules are this. There'll be 2 podiums, there'll be no props or notes. Each person is gonna get a pen, a pad, a bottle of water. All mics will be muted except when it's their turn to speak. Let's return to that because that's very important. CNN, of course, saying RFK Jr. is not going to qualify for the debate. The key mistake, in my opinion, Krystal, is stopping the microphones from being open at all times. Traditionally, that's what most debates have looked like, especially the ones that Trump has participated in. In my opinion, he does his best work off the cuff. So if we look at some of his flagship moments from the 3 debates with Hillary Clinton, the big one that most people remember is because you would be in jail. Off the cuff comment made against Hillary Clinton. That in this debate, that's literally impossible. Now, the counter to what I'm saying is that his first debate was so awful because he was so annoying and he was interrupting Biden the entire time that this time Biden can hang himself. But let's be honest, Joe Biden has locked himself up in Camp David for a week straight just to prepare for this debate. He's getting good sleep. He's surrounded by his family. He's going to get plugged full of every drug known to man before he goes up on the thing. I don't begrudge it. I
want to try that cocktail.
I kind of want to be like the enhanced games. I just want, I'm fine with everybody being drugged up, but just tell us what you're doing because then maybe I could do the same. I want to see what both of these gentlemen are on. Regardless, I think Biden is going into this with a position of strength in terms of the rules himself, and not to mention the debate moderators themselves. They've claimed they're not going to do any live fact-checking. We'll see, like Miss Candy Crowley back in the day.
That was great. That was a great moment.
Well, maybe. I think it actually, one day we should talk about it, because I think that was a major event in media history. What will happen as a result of the Dana Bash and Jake Tapper moderators controlling the mute button, basically in conjunction with the Biden rules now that have been negotiated, none of this, again, just my opinion, is playing to Trump's strengths. The other one that's not playing to Trump's strength is he's a showman. Even whenever I was in the press corps, he would pack that building with 200 reporters, and he loved playing us off each other. He would look for laughs. He likes the crowd. It's just gonna be the mods, the camera guys, and the two candidates. Their staff are not even allowed in the room. That's just it's a weird environment. I think you and I are used to it, but people who are showmen in front of thousands of people who do big rallies, it's a very uncomfortable thing that, again, I think plays a little bit more to Biden's comfort level as opposed to Trump. So right now, I think the debate rules are very much stacked in Biden's favor.
So I disagree on the muting the mic part. Because for Trump, what does he need to do? He needs to appear like he's not insane. Like, just like he can keep it on the rails. He's not totally unhinged. And having the mics muted will keep him hinged or appearing more hinged. I think the bigger problem for him is the lack of an audience, because you're so right. He feeds off a crowd.
Yeah.
He gets he's so funny. Like,
he is.
Even people
laugh,
like me who
cheer.
hate him, like, I laugh at, he's funny and it's unintentional. And so regardless of what the room looked like getting those reactions from the crowd really shapes the way people perceive how the debate went. So if he has one of his one-liners or says something that's, comedic, and there's zero, because there will be zero response because there's no one in the room, it's a much different vibe than if you have a room that even if they hate him, they can't help but laugh at what he's doing or react or, groan or whatever it is, whatever response it is that he's trying to elicit. So in my opinion, that's the bigger fail for him in terms of the rules. I also think, and maybe we can get into some of the clips now, but I also think clearly with the Caroline going out and the way Bannon's talking about it, et cetera, Doug Burgum, the way he was talking about it, they realize that the expectations are way too high for Trump.
Yeah. Because
everyone thinks, myself included, like, this guy, when he's on his game, he's one of the best ever in terms of his debate prowess. Some of those 2016 moments are legendary in the Republican primaries and against Hillary. Legendary, right? So the expectations for him are sky high. Meanwhile, they've been spending years at this point, clipping all the very worst Biden moments. And let's be real, there are plenty to choose from. But, Biden is not always just wandering around confused, listlessly, and unable to form a sentence. It's spotty. So at times, like a State of the Union, he kept it together. He did just fine. So the expectations for Biden have been set below the floor. And he's got the, most of the media outside of Fox News on his side. So if Biden is even just able to keep it together, appear like he's lucid, formulate some semi-coherent sentences, he's going to be declared the winner.
Yeah, and so what we have here, so Trump himself has recognized this, and one of the under-noticed parts of the All In podcast, I have the quotes here in front of me. He says, I happen to think he's incompetent for a lot of reasons, but it's got the worst policies. However, he said Trump said that Biden destroyed Paul Ryan in the 2012 debate. He says, I assume he's going to be somebody that will be a worthy debater. I don't want to underestimate him. That's from Trump's own words. So he is very much trying to lay the ground. But regardless, the media moment, this is part of the issue too with Biden and with just dementia in general, is people are not out all of the time. Every once in a while, under the right conditions, it looks okay. Biden has a history of rising to the moment, in these big moments. He's got the March 2020 debate versus Bernie Sanders, held it together, boom, that was it. Super Tuesday, wiped the floor with Bernie, and he wins the primary. Same in the State of the Union. I would say in general in the debates, he did okay in 2020. Didn't do bad. Most of the attention was then on Donald Trump. And then there was a whole Trump getting COVID thing, which was crazy. And Biden just rides it all the way to the basement. So In this case, Biden's in strong ground. Again, in my opinion, I think the rules are to his benefit. I think the environment is to his benefit. He's got a week of debate prep. All he has to do is just delay those concerns about his age in the two biggest stages that he'll be able to occupy. He doesn't have to do 3 debates instead of 2. These are all things that really work to his benefit. So we will see. I, again, don't think people should quote unquote underestimate Biden, because if he's got enough time to prepare, and it's only 90 minutes, it's not that long, with 2 breaks for commercials. So, at the end of the day, you assume the other guy's speaking for half the time, 45 minutes. He did longer than that on the State of the Union.
Yeah.
I think he'll be okay. And I think that's a problem for Trump. Hey, if you like that video, hit the like button or leave a comment below. It really helps get the show to more people.
And if you'd like to get the full show ad-free and in your inbox every morning, you can sign up at breakingpoints.com.
That's right. Get the full show, help support the future of independent media at breakingpoints.com.